Welcome to this week's Bitcoin Stats Show, a weekly video podcast where we give you all the big news in the world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, giving you all the info you need, whether you're trading, mining, or just fascinated about digital currencies, as we all are. I'm Will Francis, this is Sam Billingham, and of course, Ashley Ford is back this week after a brief hiatus due to...
I was abroad.
Due to a state of being abroad. He's back in the hot seat this week, so let's look at the big stories. I mean, there was yet another DDoS attack on an exchange this weekend, and it was on Sunday that BTCE suffered such an attack. Went down briefly, but everything's okay apparently. Happens all the time, they said, actually. They said, whilst this garnered news, it actually happens to them all the time. It's just you usually don't see a big outage.
Who do you think would want to be DDoSing them?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I literally don't know. Other exchanges.
Is it worth explaining what a DDoS is quickly?
Yes, let's explain
Distributed denial of service.
Thank you. Which basically means the...
It's distributed, it's a denial of service.
Or that service is denied. That there's so many requests are made of their servers that the idea is that it basically takes the server out, makes it unavailable to people trying to legitimately use the service. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, 100%.
Good. Always nice to get something right. And I mean these happen a lot to Bitcoin exchanges and services of one sort or another, but why?
Well, I mean, all across the globe. I mean, it happens to, lots of services. I mean, why? I don't know why.
I could see people who are like, people tend to stick to one exchange. So I could maybe see people who are big on one exchange against another one. But it seems a bit.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of
Hashtag Team Mt. Gox.
I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about 2 weeks ago. In that, Bitcoin is has been adopted by a lot of tech-savvy people, and if they club together and almost like in a cult kind of way go with one exchange, then it
does all get a bit partisan, a bit kind of like clan.
Yeah,
you get clans,
But then again, they've got a vested interest. These people that, I don't know. Maybe they don't have a vested interest. Maybe they're just, absolute rogues that go around trying to take services offline.
But that's hacker life.
Just because they feel like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's always been the hacker ethos. It's just having a pot because
they can.
It's a challenge.
But I think now the fact that these people have, these hackers have probably got in quite early with Bitcoin and they want the price to rise.
Yeah.
That they're, really kind of focusing their efforts on taking other services down, other exchanges down to try and, I don't know, sway the
I suppose if
whatever.
you ran an exchange, all you would want to see is other exchanges get bad press and lose the trust of their users. But more broadly, do you think that there are people, I mean, without sounding too much conspiracy theorist, do you think there's a chance that there is a broader campaign against Bitcoin services from elsewhere? I mean, if I was being
from like the governments, and
kind
like
of, if I was
the
being a
banking
real
sector.
conspiracy theorist, I'd say that the banks had basically employed
the NSA
hackers to basically balls up the whole Bitcoin economy in one way or another.
Nah. If they really did, they could screw it up a lot more than doing a DDoS on some exchange.
And I mean, the market cap's like 5 billion.
It's nothing really
compared to what the banks make. What the economies are worth in all these countries.
Yeah,
it's not worth it. They wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
But there's there's not to say that they wouldn't. I mean, if Bitcoin was seen as a threat, I mean, it'd be a great honour for Bitcoin if one of these banks turned around and actually did. DDoS or try and take down a Bitcoin exchange, because then it would be mainstream media for a start that would pick up on that, and it would actually probably do Bitcoin quite a bit of credibility.
True. If Barclays were taking Bitcoin seriously, you'd really be like, okay, this is for real. Okay.
It's worth noting that it is like a lot of the other exchanges, a lot of the other services, like Bitstamp, CoinDesk,
Cripsy.
Coinbase, a lot of these other bigger names that you've heard about don't necessarily agree with, or I don't know, it's not the right word to say but when Mt. Gox came about, the other exchanges clubbed together, and like BTCE didn't get involved and did their own thing, because the founder or the owners are anonymous, and it's kind of the last underground exchange or last big one. Like the others tend not to associate with it. It's kind of on its own. So
BTCE, no one still knows who runs or owns it.
No.
It's amazing, isn't it? Considering how much money they had.
Yeah.
Would that change if there was a Mt. Gox type incident at BTCE? We wonder.
I don't know. I can only imagine that's why they don't want them. If anything bad did happen, they'd just disappear.
But I mean, there must be people that know who they are. If there
was a
they'd
real
have to set up a
investigation.
bank account, wouldn't they, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So there must be people in the world that absolutely know who they are.
Or at least think they know who they are.
I think
That's true.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time that somebody had set up a bank account.
If you're smart enough to run,
or something,
exactly. If you're smart enough to run one of the biggest exchanges in the world, you can probably open a fake bank account.
Well, this is the thing. This whole, that goes back to, the whole Bitcoin community and their the fact that they're, they don't like. I don't know what's the word. They're very conscious of what other people are thinking about. And, it's all a bit underground, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's not very transparent.
Well, no, that's its very nature, though, isn't it? Talking about transparency, it's probably worth noting we're enjoying some craft beers on this week's show, and it's not a sponsorship. We just thought we'd highlight some nice beers this week. We may do it in future.
Yeah.
What are you drinking, Ash?
I can't pronounce it, but it's nice.
So that pretty much proves it's not a sponsorship because.
Go on, give it a try.
Don't know. How do you pronounce that? Maredsus?
Maredsu, yeah.
It's a blonde.
Is it Belgian?
Um.
Part of the show where we try and decode a beer label. Bear with us.
It's not in English.
We'll get there.
But it's made by high fermentation Abbey beer, brewed in accordance with the Benedictine tradition of the community of Maredsus Abbey. The beer is re-fermented in the bottle during the 2-month aging period.
Wow.
Should ideally be served at temperature of 6 to 10 degrees.
How does it taste? Describe it.
Yeah, it tastes good.
Tastes good, right?
I mean, it tastes like a nice beer. I mean, it's 6%, 330 millilitres in the bottle. Bottle's quite interesting. Label's beige.
Yeah, it's nice.
Beer tastes relatively nice. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Orval, which is also brewed by Trappist monks and their lay employees, who again it's a non-profit organisation, and all the proceeds go to the upkeep of an abbey somewhere in
Belgium.
In Belgium, yeah. So and actually, I'm not a massive beer sort of aficionado, but
this is quite a strong one, but it's got
really
quite a nice
nice
flavour at the end of it.
very nice. I can see why people get into this kind
It's
of
not a heavy one. I could drink this all night.
I could. I think I'd be looking for a mojito in an hour or so.
I can't
Just to cleanse the old palate. But yeah, it's good. It's sort of
What's the percentage?
6.2% alcohol. So yeah, I mean, you would very likely have religious experiences before too many of these,
Yeah.
But anyway, good to know. And who knows what we'll be drinking next week, if anything.
Foster's and San Miguel.
I think so, yeah. We're doing the San Miguel Challenge live. Anyway, last week we talked about, you weren't here last week, but we talked about Cryptex, right? And they've released what's heralded as the first debit card, Bitcoin-powered debit card. Essentially, you get a debit card, you can spend it anywhere, you can take it to any ATM.
Oh, any ATM?
Yeah, any ATM, and you can even go to a shop and use it just like a debit card. Obviously, that has to get converted into a local currency. So if you're in Japan, you pay with your Cryptex debit card. Yes, you're paying in Bitcoin ultimately, but it's going via yen and wherever you are. So it's quite useful for travel money. We were talking about last week. You can go anywhere and pay. Although Rich did actually bring up the point that he would practically crap his pants going around the world, knowing that his Bitcoin wallet
is available to everyone.
Yeah, anything could be happening to it. But anyway, that aside, quite useful. And as more and more of these kind of workarounds are coming out. You've got Coin for Coffee, which allows you to pay for Starbucks, pay in Starbucks with Bitcoin, but really what it does is it generates a Starbucks gift card.
But surely there's no reason why you couldn't actually create a new wallet, siphon a little bit of your Bitcoin off into the wallet, and then use that to, hook that up with your card.
Yeah, you could, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
So you haven't got your own life savings.
Yeah.
There's a few other things as well now. There's gift.com. I don't think we can get it in the UK.
Oh, yes, you're right.
You can get like gift cards for all
GYFT.com.
Yeah. And there's quite a few different ones that are like browser extensions. So when you're on Amazon, you can be like, pay with whatever this extension is instead.
Yeah.
And then it like
for Amazon?
You buy it through them instead, not in the UK.
But it shows prices in Bitcoin and stuff.
Because we're coming on to that later with Amazon. There's a whole Bitcoin Amazon thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, that's quite interesting. So, with the Bitcoin, you pay for your Bitcoin?
The Bitcoin, yeah.
So you you have your Bitcoin wallet.
So it could this card is just a bit of plastic that's somehow connected to my Bitcoin wallet. That's it.
No,
the Cryptex debit card is.
Yeah.
But the point we're making here in this...
but it converts it to UK USD.
Yeah, but what we're finding is, in a world where you can't just rock up...
Yeah, with your Bitcoin.
And pay with Bitcoin, people are finding a lot of inventive workarounds, like this kind of Starbucks gift card hack, essentially, Coin for Coffee. Coin card, it's a preloaded MasterCard, which, you load up using Bitcoin.
There must be a transaction fee though, right?
There'll always be transaction fees.
0.0001.
And that's one of the inefficiencies. There's always time as well, with the confirmed transactions, things like that. There's still barriers, and it still always essentially goes through traditional fiat currencies.
So what's the benefit for me using a Bitcoin card or just getting out my debit card?
Just as a use case.
That's the question. Yeah.
As a use case, there's no benefit. It's way easier to go with your normal debit card, but what you're doing is
you're supporting the community.
Unless you're holding Bitcoin because you think...
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to... the point is, if you wanted to buy something, but you didn't want to have to trade it back into fiat currency.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just spend the Bitcoin you've got, or spend exact amounts of, rather than change $500 worth of Bitcoin and then start spending it.
Yeah, true.
But I feel like a lot of these things are far more useful for people who have got a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
People who are just want to get involved and just
playing with the currency.
Just bought half a Bitcoin, aren't worried about going to Tesco and being able to buy the milk with it.
No.
They want to have some to see what happens and to be involved. So I think I don't know how relevant it is for small time holders or people just getting started.
But it's the same last week. We talked about that Irish company that started paying their employees in Bitcoin. Right? What they do at the end of each month, they see how many euros that person needs to be paid, and they buy that amount of euros worth of Bitcoin and then give it to the employees. And in reality, that's not very useful to your average employee. Do you know what I mean? Because they're
landlord in Bitcoin.
Exactly. So it's the same problem, but again, if we all sort of push against the status quo, then hopefully good things will happen. You know what you say? So you mentioned the Amazon thing, and because after looking into Bitcoin, Amazon have decided not to adopt it because they don't think it's any use to their customers. Similar sort of reasons.
And the fact that they've got, I think, what was it, 75 billion turnover last year? Bitcoin's
their
worth
revenue
5 billion.
75 billion.
Yeah, 75.
I mean, Amazon are renowned for not making much profit though. So that's revenue. The profit's probably not even 10% of that.
I reckon it'd be quite a
That's quite a lot of money.
Quite a bit. But 75 billion. But market cap for Bitcoin's 5. So you know, what's the slice that they're going to take from that?
1/15,
Nothing.
1%,
1%
maybe if they're lucky.
So you're talking like it's not worth. They're not even going to bother putting a flaming intern researcher on the project to see if it's worthwhile. It's not at the level yet. If you're talking to, $500 billion market cap, then it might be worthwhile even maybe to have a quick meeting about it. You know what I mean? But
side topic: did you know that Amazon, some of their warehouses, they pay people to quit?
Really?
They offer you, I think it's in their first year, they offer you like $2,000. After you've been there a year, they offer you $2,000 to quit. So if you really don't if you don't want to work there, they say we'll pay you $2,000 to quit. And for the next 3 years, they increase it by $1,000 up to $5,000 to quit.
Wow,
that's interesting.
So yeah, Amazon aren't messing around.
And is that because they just want to incentivize anybody who doesn't want to work there to leave?
Yeah, it's not worth having somebody around who doesn't want to be there.
Wow,
that's good.
That is disruptive, isn't it? I mean, that is really,
That's really good.
That's amazing. Nothing to do with Bitcoin, but it's a great fact.
Still
But it is really interesting because it's like that documentary about their pickers, their product pickers, and how you have to be really into it to you have to be the right kind of person who's fully on board to meet those targets. So,
I mean, it is a machine.
Yeah.
But they deliver good service, and that's why they're so popular, and that's why they make so much money. But that's
they're one of they're one of several companies that could actually create their own currency if they really wanted to. I don't know quite why, but
didn't something go around about it at one point, or they were thinking about it for
it's a camera
for their digital stuff?
Yeah,
I'm sure there was talk of some Amazon credit or
for MP3s and
or
Prime and stuff. Yeah.
And the Kindle downloads and games and stuff. I'm not sure what came of that.
I don't know. I mean, it's becoming so much easier to make microtransactions with just normal currencies that it's like Facebook credits, never lasted, because ultimately, a lot of things like iTunes and PlayStation and stuff like that, they have no problem charging you 20p, 79p for items. So if it works, don't fix it, sort of thing. But another big story is that Bitcoin price drop. It started to drop with quite a decent pace in the last month. So 30 days ago, it was over $600, and it's dipped in the last week to under $400. It's stabilised back above $400 per Bitcoin now.
Up to 500 today.
Yeah,
but this was all because of this China stuff.
Yeah,
nobody knows what's going on, and there's so much speculation, so much misinformation that it's going to be banned. It's already banned. The exchanges, a lot of the exchanges. I think all the exchanges except BTC China, stopped bank deposits and Bitcoin withdrawals to fiat.
Yeah, I mean,
and there was all this talk about them moving overseas.
What's going to happen with BTC China?
They're carrying on. BTC China have said we're doing we're carrying on as normal. There's nothing.
But what happens if they ban it in China? I mean, they can't carry on, surely.
Well, they're not going to. There's loads of stuff saying that they've just they're not doing anything.
They're not
against
banning
it at the moment. No, the Chinese government come out and said they don't want to ban it.
Oh, they don't want to ban it.
No.
Right. So what are they going to do with it? Just tax it?
I don't know if they've decided yet.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure the ruling in the US will change as well at some point.
I mean, the US have got similar rules to us, though, haven't they?
Yeah.
HMRC.
Capital gains tax and all that. So there's some legitimacy, some recognition.
I mean, it's bonkers. I think it's all it's bonkers for a country to ban it.
They can't.
Yeah, it's like trying to ban the internet.
But I mean, they should. I think the governments should really just look up and take their heads out of their asses and understand the opportunity. I mean, Amazon obviously hasn't understood the opportunity because the opportunity's, less than 1% of what their business could gain from, right? But the governments should embrace the people and say the people want to use these alternative currencies.
So you're saying the governments should embrace digital currencies, make money on taxes, and ultimately they can't actually ban a cryptocurrency anyway.
Yeah, they can't ban it, but I think they should embrace it.
They can ban it in the sense that it makes it really hard for people to get hold of, though.
Yeah.
Because they don't let banks deal with companies that
are
deal
trading
with crypto, then it's really hard. But then again, once ATMs are popping up all over the place, then when they turn around and ban it, though, it's not going to happen once you get ATMs in somewhere.
No, I mean, I think it's more of an opportunity for governments to, understand. I think the people inside these organisations need to understand, how it works. Have some tech advisor in there, some crypto advisor that is helping them understand how these currencies work. And
oh mate, the thought of them being a crypto advisor, HMRC, he's just like, it can't be good, right? It's never going to end well.
No, but they need to
crypto.
They can understand.
Webmaster advisor.
Totally, yeah.
From Tabernacle Court.
It reminds me of the social media guy that I used to get dragged into things,
Yeah, but I mean, if they had someone that they, was a down-to-earth guy who could just say, look, this can potentially help the economy. They're not going to see.
They could ask questions they could not understand, and then they could still ignore them.
You know what? They're not going to do it because the banks and financial institutions prop up governments and politics. They're heavily involved in governments and politics. I mean, look at the UK specifically. The fact that the UK government had to bail out all the banks. The US are in the same situation. I'm sure they had to bail out banks.
Yeah.
And therefore the banks are going to put pressure on the government to not adopt Bitcoin and not adopt these alternative currencies. So I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, I wouldn't want to be someone that has to make that decision, but I think ultimately Bitcoin's not going to harm anyone. Is it used for money laundering? I mean, possibly. Is real currency used for money laundering?
Totally, they are.
100%.
If you're good at money laundering, you can do it with.
If you go and get $20 or $50 or 20 quid or 50 quid out of your bank account right now and you walk down the street, can you go and buy drugs? Absolutely. I mean, you can walk into a newsagent's and buy tobacco. I mean, that's a drug, and it's regulated by the government, right? They shave off, they make a profit out of it. So, I mean, seeing that Bitcoin, looking at Bitcoin as being this really dirty thing that is
sort of inherently shady. Yeah.
I mean, it's tame compared to what
the US dollar.
The US dollar. I mean, you can buy drugs, guns. I mean, I watched Bowling for Columbine the other week. And the guy walks into the bank in the first shot and says, "I'm here to open up the bank account where I get the free gun." It's like,
I know,
really? You're giving a gun in a bank? I mean, there are far more, far bigger problems in the world to sort out than worry about, this invisible currency that you can now attach to your MasterCard and you can take out and buy yourself a Snickers or a Starbucks coffee. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's true.
There's my 10 pence.
That's crypto.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, where do you go from there? I mean, then
back to the bit.
Back on the price. How do you feel like?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think? What do you guys think about the price going down to? Other than the China stuff, do you think anything else in general is causing this decrease in price this year?
I think. Yeah, I think there has been a constant erosion in trust. Seems like the obvious thing to say, but I do think that the average sort of person who would maybe take a punt on buying a couple of $100 worth of Bitcoin, that's sort of the bottom of the pyramid essentially, which is a lot, a broad end of the market. Just really, they don't really know where to turn. They're a bit put off by it. And they're probably just waiting, for it to seem a bit of a rosier picture before getting involved. I think just over the last few months it seemed quite shady, and
I mean it's been very rocky as well.
Yeah,
it has. There's lots of things that go on in the US, with stocks and shares and trading and ups and fluctuations and downs, and people being pulled up for this and that and the other that we don't even hear about because we're not really in the trading circles. But with Bitcoin, everyone hears about it. Everyone that knows about Bitcoin that's got a vested interest in it, and even the mainstream media picked up on Mt. Gox's demise, and the whole Satoshi Nakamoto kind of cloak and daggers situation that went on around that. I mean, that doesn't do anything for Bitcoin.
No, it just makes it look like a sort of a bedroom project that got out of hand. I mean, it all stinks of like amateurness to me, and that's what I think there's damaged the price, the stability, the public trust, and it'll take more legitimacy type stuff like retailers adopting it, banks and governments recognising it, that sort of thing, to really brand Bitcoin back from where it is. But
it really needs some big adopter other than the Winklevoss twins. Some really big organisation to kind of step on board and say, we're gonna, like Target or Walmart or someone like that would just come in and say, right, we're gonna give it a go. We're gonna try it. We trust this. We're gonna put our stamp on it and say that we want to kind of run with it.
Yeah, it's classic. You look at it's like the adoption curve. The methodology, at the moment we're very much an innovator. Possibly some early adopters, but you've got to hit the
16% before you.
Yeah, and it's only when the majority are known to only trust something when they see lots of other people trusting it, or trusted people or brands trusting it, and that's perhaps what needs to happen. But I think also Bitcoin will always be prone to boom and bust because it's essentially a trading currency, like a lot of cryptocurrencies. I would imagine most of the activity is simply trading,
and the market
it's not actually
day traders.
It's day traders, and where you get day traders instead of an actual economy based on it, where people are buying, selling, running businesses on it, then you are going to get instability and volatility.
I mean, that is the problem. The fact that it is, there are not enough businesses to prop it up.
No, the moment it's basically a game.
Yeah, there's like a constant downwards pressure on price. With people who have bought like mining hardware, who want to recoup some of their initial investment, mining stuff, and then trying to sell the Bitcoin straight away, as well as people like this stuff with Tiger Direct, or like these businesses take it on. They're trading the majority of it back to US dollars, which means there's a constant sale of Bitcoin. So although like liquidity is really good and like all these people accepting Bitcoin is great, it does increase the downwards pressure on price.
That's very true. Yeah, it's very true.
And I think that is the biggest. Yeah, that's probably the best point of the night.
Wow.
On that bombshell. What's the next thing?
Well, there's actually been a new lead developer appointed on Bitcoin, Vladimir van der Laan. Yeah, and it's presumably a promotion.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah. He has worked at the Bitcoin Foundation for about 18 months now, and he's
what's he doing?
Well, he sounds quite ambitious. He wants to make Bitcoin. He clearly wants to make Bitcoin more user friendly for users and developers. He wants to split off a Bitcoin Qt wallet client from the core P2P code.
Yeah.
He wants to make
more deterministic wallet.
A more deterministic wallet that presumably will allow faster initial block downloads. At the moment, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, I've heard
even on a fast connection, when you first download the block, it takes a day. I mean, that's 24 hours solid sitting there waiting for a download. It's pretty crazy. And he also wants to improve developer documentation, which would be really welcome.
It's a godsend.
Yeah. So it should be interesting to see. It's good to have some fresh blood, driving Bitcoin forward.
He's not really fresh.
No, but he's fresh to the role, and like we seem to always talk about every week, anything that makes Bitcoin more accessible.
Oh, it's a positive thing.
It's better.
It needs it.
It's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Bitcoin Foundation do a great job. Yeah. Anyway.
And finally, Bitcoin ATM Watch. It's our favourite part of the show.
Yeah.
And this week is one I would never have predicted.
Where's next? Come on then.
There's a Robocoin ATM in a congressional office building on Capitol Hill in Washington. As part of the Capitol Hill government complex, in one of those office buildings is a Robocoin ATM. And when they opened it, there was actually quite a lot of press turned up.
It's probably so that the NSA and the FBI and the CIA
Well, exactly, yeah.
got their cameras trained on it to see who's actually using
But
it.
speaking of that, do you know have you seen how the Robocoin ATM machines work?
I've got a vague idea, but no, I've not
Does
seen
it take
so
your
close.
fingerprint?
Yeah, pretty
Yes.
much. You have to, like, you go in there and you give it your mobile number, it sends you a little code, you put your code into the machine, then, like, that's signs you up with an account, then you have to scan your palm 4 times, then you have to pose for a little picture. Which I'm not sure if some of them take retina scans, but you can do a retina just off like a normal webcam type picture, and then you can go through the process of like, I want to buy some Bitcoin and put your money in.
Do you have to scan ID at all?
Like, yeah, you have to scan your ID in as well. You can
Sounds like
Awesome.
copy a government
Microsoft
ID.
Live account.
So when they say they've got one in the building, and you're like,
That's funny, yeah.
for the NSA, like they take a lot of details. The
Yeah.
Robocoin ones do.
I mean, I would love to see how many people use
If
that.
you don't want to be on the radar, that's not the place to
Do
go.
they really think though, like the sort of head of a terrorist cell is going to go and might buy 20 Bitcoin?
I mean, I
Down
don't know.
at
You say
Capitol
that,
Hill.
but they find
Yeah.
these things in like really odd play. In like 4 years when they do these investigations, and they're like, "Oh, we saw this guy walking
Yeah.
past a bus stop, and we got like a picture of his ear, and we know who he is." Like, stranger things have happened.
They have. But anyway,
done
that's,
that early.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this week on the Bitcoin Stats Show. Don't forget, you can of course download the Bitcoin Stats app, which we made, and which allows you to track Bitcoin prices across the top exchanges. It's available at bitcoinstats.co.uk, and you can get it for iOS or Android. And don't forget to join us next week, where we'll be talking about all the big stories and big conversation points in the world of Bitcoin. But in the meantime, have a great week, and more importantly,
That's crypto.
so is it stay crypto?
No, it's that's crypto, but it's more like a that's crypto.